There is actually, as you read, a Carlos Marcello confession. And I was amazed when I saw this. I believe it was taken out of the JFK assassination records.
In 1979, the House Select Committee on Assassinations concluded that two members of the Mafia had the motive, the means, and the method.
There's no record of it in there. Marcello said, referring to the president, Kennedy, yeah, I had the son of a bitch killed. I'm glad I did. I'm sorry I couldn't have done it myself.
I think we base a great deal of it upon the electronic surveillance transcripts that were available through the FBI. There were a number of conversations between members of organized crime that did lead one towards believing that they could have been involved.
The Carousel Club got its strippers from the show bar in New Orleans that was run by Carlos Marcello's brother. So you have immediate associations, and in particular one, a man by the name of David Ferry, who hated Kennedy, expressed the notion that he ought to be shot, was working for Carlos Marcello, met with him repeatedly shortly before the assassination, and was a lifelong friend of Lee Harvey Oswald.
There's all kinds of theories about who exactly shot him and so on and so forth. I want to go back to something because I always like toward the end of these to give people something to really stop and think about, because there is actually, as you read, a Carlos Marcello confession. And I was amazed when I saw this. It was not, by the way, I believe it was taken out of the JFK assassination records. There's no record of it in there. I happened to find it when I was on a podcast by a New York journalist, and they were showing a cabinet meeting with the president, current president, and all of his minions there. And I can't remember which cabinet member. They were talking about the Bobby Kennedy assassination. The Jack Kennedy assassination. And the question was asked, have we got all the records now and everything? And she said, well, yes and no. We've now found 14 boxes of documents, and they're on the floor of my office out there for anybody to do what they wanted to. Well, I looked that up then, and I found a FBI record, and it was dated 3/7/86. On March 4th, 1986, Jack Ronald Van Lanham, inmate, provided this following information. On December 15th, 1985, he was in the company of Carlos Marcello and another inmate at the Federal Correctional Institute in Texarkana, Texas. In the courtyard, engaged in conversation, Marcello discussed his intense dislike of the former President John F. Kennedy, as he often did. Unlike other such tirades against Kennedy, however, on this occasion, Marcello said, referring to the president, Kennedy, yeah, I had the son of a bitch killed. I'm glad I did. I'm sorry I couldn't have done it myself. Yeah, I had the son of a bitch killed. I'm glad I did. I'm sorry I couldn't have done it myself. Now, that confession has been corroborated through Van Laningham's interviews with the FBI and all of that. That basically validates an awful lot of Dorothy Kilgallen and my research. I'll be really interested if any of your viewers, when they hear about this, it's easy to think, wait a minute, that just doesn't make sense, because the mafioso, the one thing omerta, isn't that what they call it? Omerta, they keep their mouth shut. Why would he talk about this? Why would he do that? Now, what we find out is that this Van Lanningham was a plant by the FBI. They got him a transistor radio. They went ahead and put a microphone in there, and it was just amazing that they went ahead and were able to get that on tape. We're still trying to find it and everything else like that. So that just kind of sums up everything we've talked about.
The JFK assassination, it's your take that it was not Oswald alone, that Marcello was behind it, and then beyond that, we don't necessarily, the shots came, you believe the police, the Dallas police chief's assertion that the shots came from the overpass in front, things like that. But I would imagine beyond that, you're not necessarily ready to say definitively like who was there other than Oswald and other than maybe Marcello's guys.
I think in terms of what happened in Dealey Plaza, Dorothy only investigated Jack Ruby.
Right.
She never looked into Oswald. She never looked into the CIA or the Russians or the Cubans or anything else like that. I think from the moment, there's this book and it's quoted, and people can find it, a rare copy. It's Jesse Curry's autobiography. It's not very long, but he takes you from the moment he was told that Kennedy, JFK was dead. He takes you all the way through in terms of what happened. I think it's the most articulate, the most accurate account of what happened in Dealey Plaza. And even he can't say exactly who was there that was involved in JFK's death. He can only tell you that shots came from the overpass of the grassy knoll, which makes you know that it was somebody else that was in Dealey Plaza. So no, I don't think I would ever stand up and say, hey, this person was there or that person. I tried to show that Marcello had these goons that he could have sent there. There's all kinds of theories about who exactly shot him and so on and so forth. But that's not something that I would ever say that I know the most about.
Right. And, then, as you talk about Jack Ruby, who you've been able to show, and there's been a lot of evidence about how his connections to the Dallas police, they would drink at his bar, and he comped them. So it was not weird that he was in the police station to then shoot Oswald. And, all these connections that really, the very basics, a lot of what you have in this book really just immediately poke holes at a lot of the accepted theories. Sorry, I'm coughing. So it's wild that some of these things got kind of brushed aside, but then also, as you discover in the book, not surprising, because there's a lot of abuse of power for one reason or another, and people had their own reasons to brush things under the rug and not let things out that might have changed the official narratives and allowed for more exploration. So, in that, I'll say thank you for being someone who is putting out information that is trying to do that and trying to poke holes where they need to be poked, and to give props and give honors to people like Dorothy, who was a legend in her time and should be a legend now as well. And then just, to shine a light on how sad these things are, where we have this, Marilyn Monroe, this incredible artist who was murdered, and Dorothy was murdered, and the two presidents, whatever you thought of them, either way, murder. I mean, these are sad, sad events, but at the same time, shining a light on them, probably is never a bad thing.
No, it's not. And thank you for having me on the program. You're a good man, and I appreciate it. Yeah, it's just, not one of these four people should have died.
Yeah.
None of them. They really shouldn't. And it was circumstances beyond their control at times. Some of them, caused some of the problems that they had and everything. But this abuse of power, again, with our only hearing one side of the equation, just as we're doing today, is really sad, because you need to have all the facts, and then you can make up your own mind. And it started back with the Warren Commission, started with Marilyn's death, and so on and so forth. So people like you, I really respect and admire, because you're helping to get the material out there, and then people can make up their own mind as to what they think happened. The whole situation with Dorothy is that she's kind of the linchpin, if you look at it. And how I ended up landing on her is so serendipitous, because I'm telling you, I didn't. When this friend of Bella said Dorothy Kilgallen, I said, who's that? And now we've gone all the way, and I'm very proud of the fact that this new honor for her in New York City has come up. CBS News just did a article, or did a telecast in October, going into the race around the world, and what that all meant. We've got the signing. And then I can tell you that in this new book, Girl Around the World, I'm able to now go ahead and connect Dorothy Kilgallen's participation in the race around the world with her kindred spirit. For heaven's sakes.
I'm going to guess Amelia Earhart.
Amelia Earhart.
This would be my guess. Yeah.
Amelia Earhart. Because they knew each other in 1932 when Earhart traveled to Europe. Earhart sent Dorothy a telegram in 1936 when she took off on the 1936 race around the world. When Amelia died, Dorothy wrote a column about it in terms of what she thought had happened. And the most impressive thing was that in 1932, when Amelia left from Newfoundland to go to Paris. Dorothy, as I found out in this best-selling book, and I'm looking to make sure that the source is correct, Dorothy was the only woman at 23 years old who was allowed in the room when they were chronicling what was happening to Amelia as she tried to cross the Pacific, and the news, faulty, came across that she had crashed.